All right, so there you have it. There'll be lots to follow on that topic. We're still sticking with news in Nigeria. As we approach the 2023 election year in the country, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, says the commission will require 305 billion naira to conduct the elections in 2023. He disclosed this during a meeting with the Senate Committee on Appropriation at the National Assembly yesterday.
The INEC boss also noted that the amount will enable the commission to prepare for the election and purchase all the election materials needed, and also cover several by-elections across the country. We are now joined by our chief researcher, Abdulateef Ahmed. Many thanks for joining the program, Lateef. I mean, you monitor the elections not just in Nigeria, but also across Africa. What are your thoughts on the comments made by the INEC chairman?
It was not surprising to hear the INEC chairman talk about what will be needing, for elections in 2023. What is a little worrisome is the fact that we always wait until until the very last hour to decide as to fund something that is as critical as electioneering in Nigeria. So it is not surprising. However, we continue to see a rise in cost of elections in Nigeria, which affects critical infrastructural development in the country.
Now, Abdulateef, I mean, in 2019, the Senate approved about 234.5 billion naira for INEC to execute election of that year. Yet the exercise was marred by some irregularities, from card reader failure to late or no arrival of material in some of the polling units, and most especially security threats as well. Now, tell us what the guarantee is that the amount being requested for now by INEC will be put into good use, and hopefully we might just have a hitch-free exercise come 2023.
So it is not just about requests. So when funding is expected for electioneering, what is expected is that the funding should be done in good time, so that if you release these funds for INEC, they are able to procure critical materials in good time and ensure that these materials are deployed, they are used, they are studied, they are, because those who will need to use these electoral materials need to understand how it works. So there's training for INEC officials who will be conducting the elections. So it's problematic when you merely think funding is the problem. Funding as at when due is very important, because when you look at the rising cost of items, inflation, and all of that across the world, then you begin to understand why some of this the cost of these items continue to rise as the days go by.
All right, Lateef. Now, with the use of the electronic voting machines first tested at the just concluded Anambra governorship elections, isn't the amount supposed to be perhaps reduced, since there will be lesser presence of manpower due to tech involved in this voting system?
Well, that is something I am looking at also. What I understand, for instance, is that beyond funding for deployment of technology in the elections, you realize that what we are paying for is mistrust. We pay for mistrust because some of these critical infrastructure need to be imported. Some of them need to be printed. Ballot papers, for example, about 2 million tons of ballot papers need to be imported to Nigeria. When you continue to look at all of these put together, it will continue to increase the cost of the overall cost of electioneering. Consider also the number of political parties that will be participating in this election. Some of them do not even need to appear on the ballot papers, but they keep coming, they keep appearing like ceremonial or jamboree all the time. They keep coming on board. They simply add to the cost of whatever it will cost the nation. However, I mean, the electoral umpire would really want the assumption or the perception that everybody is being carried along. So political parties get to participate in order to follow the process through and through.
All right, now, Abdulateef, I mean, it was in the papers. One of the major papers we had this morning was in the Punch newspaper, this particular story, talking about why the president refused to actually sign the bill. Now, it says here, Buhari returns bill to NAS default direct primaries cite insecurity. It also says here the primary mode is against the party constitution. It might be too expensive and small parties will be marginalized. I mean, what does this say about the electoral bill in general for you?
What it tells us is our lack of preparedness in everything we do. Why does the president need the last hour to express his concerns? He could have done this long ago before the deadline, so that if there is need for adjustment, if there is need for internal rearrangement to ensure that this bill is sorted out, we would have known. But citing insecurity, well, that will always be the excuse. And in fact, the cost of electioneering continues to rise primarily because of the insecurity. You know the number of INEC offices that has been shattered in the past few months or few years. You know the logistics that is involved in all of this. So the president actually would give an excuse, but I do not see how that excuse would not have been given long before now. Why do we need to wait for the 11th hour before we decide on what to do?
On one hand, we have the Electoral Act bill being sent by the president. On the other hand, INEC now requesting 305 billion.
And then we have a census that will go up another 400 billion holding next year. I mean, why do we wait for critical things like this in the very last minute?
Well, I think your point goes there, Abdulateef Ahmed. The cost of electioneering and the cost of paying for mistrust with all this kind of money that's going around, and the importing of all these materials just to run the election. Then you ask yourself why it clearly turns into perhaps